Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday and welcome to your Rangers Review Morning Briefing. It is Monday, the 17th of March. I'm Derek Clark and I'm joined this morning by Jonny McFarlane. How goes it, Jonny?
Very good, Derek. Very, very good morning and tumultuous, interesting, fascinating, brilliant game to discuss this morning, which obviously is going to make for an action-packed show.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a good old programme this morning. Just a hunch, that's all. Just before we dive right into what unfolded in the East End of Glasgow yesterday, a quick word from our sponsors, the Rangers Review, as you all know, now brought to you by S1 Jobs. If it's time to hand in your transfer request, then head over to s1jobs.com and upload your CV today. With thousands of jobs across Glasgow, Edinburgh and the surrounding areas, you'll find the one at S1 Jobs. So start your search today. Remember, folks, I'd imagine many of you will be wanting to get your comments into the show today. Then make sure you are a subscriber. You have to be a subscriber to comment on the show. So make sure you hit that button. It's totally free, remember. But right, let's get stuck right in, shall we? Rangers ending a 5-year wait for a win at Parkhead, with a remarkable game at Parkhead yesterday. Rangers winning by 3-2 against Celtic, going 2-0 up before half-time. In all honesty, it really should have been more. And Nico Raskin with an early header, a goal from a corner, can you believe it? Mohamed Diamande rifling one into the back of the net. Václav Cerny really should have scored as well. Rangers, of course, with the exploits of Thursday night, you could see them tiring in the second half. Celtic had a go, get back on level terms through Maeda and Hatate. I've got to be honest, I was fearing the worst, but I should have feared not, because Rangers and Barry made some interesting substitutions. He brought Hamza Igaman on, and he unleashed an absolute thunderbolt into the top corner with just a few minutes of the 90 remaining, and Rangers would go on and see it out to claim what is a famous old victory. Now, we know the league is a foregone conclusion, but just had a feeling yesterday that perhaps we could be seeing a bit of a shift in momentum, perhaps, and Rangers getting that first win at Parkhead since the Connor Goldson double. Barry Ferguson earning his first Old Firm win at the first time of asking. That's him now dispatched Jose Mourinho and Brendan Rodgers in the space of a few days. Jonny, you watched the game unfold. What did you make of it all?
Well, first of all, as you say, it was a phenomenal game. It was really end to end. So many action points, so many moments to discuss. I thought that Rangers in the first half were outstanding. So much energy, the press, the way they were organised on and off the ball, individual player performances that were just outstanding. Nico Raskin, Mohamed Diamande, there was quite a few. John Suter, excellent all. Second half, I thought Rangers were poor, really poor, and Celtic came massively back into the game. Adam Ida came on and changed the kind of the structure of the game in a little bit and gave Celtic a focal point, and that made them a lot more dangerous. But do you know what? Having said all that, I think probably on the basis of the second half, a draw was probably a fair result. But having said all that, what was massively, massively pleasing, I think, from a Rangers point of view about the game was the way they showed character. And it's the second time in a matter of days where the team have been tested to the nth degree against a very good side and have shown that grit and determination in the face of adversity. And this is something that we've been questioning about Rangers all season. But it's twice now they've really, really shown the desire to dig deep and pull something from somewhere. And that seems to be new. That seems to be something Barry Ferguson's added. So you have to give them massive kudos, because even a draw at Parkhead is a good result. But to go up the pitch with that last kind of big moment from Jack Butland with a big punt, Cyril Dessers going up for the header, taking the defender, and neither of them getting on it, the ball bouncing, and then there you go. It falls to Hamza, and you think, what a great opportunity he's got there. If he can control this ball, and he manages to just slide it between the two Celtic defenders, and then what a finish. Absolutely smashes that ball into the top corner. and then Bedlam erupts. So, to go there and win is an incredible result, and Rangers deserve a huge amount of credit. But it was quite a strange game in a number of ways.
Certainly was. Yeah, I did enjoy Alistair Johnston's Brian O'Neill impersonation prior to Hamza getting that ball.
You showed your age with that reference.
Yeah, well, he's on his backside. And just like Sir Brian have loud up, Hamza made sure that ball stayed hit. He burst the net, an absolute beauty. What a goal to end his goal drought as well. I was absolutely delighted for him. And how I would love to have been one of the 2,400 in that away end. I know Stevie Clifford was in there jumping about.
I saw the pictures. He looked happy, didn't he?
All the Bears. So, it looked like a real brilliant away end. That's to kick off. Rangers, Barry said it before about the team being too nice. I think it was prior to the Fenerbahce game. Said that Rangers, like you say, Johnny, he's instilled a character and a bit of maybe a nasty streak in this team that has been also lacking for a number of years now. Celtic have had free reign over Rangers for quite some time, but we saw yesterday that there was no real respect. Well, there was respect, of course, but they weren't giving them over respect. They were in their faces from the off. Dujon Sterling said that afterwards. I very much enjoyed his Instagram post as well after. But you need that. I mean, even Václav Cerny running away celebrating at Hamza's goal, it's caused a bit of a stushy. That's what Barry's instilled in these players, I think, to go out there and don't stand off. Go there and instill your own game on them.
Yeah, I got a bit of stick in the comments, didn't I, after the Fenerbahce game for saying that I'd quite like to see a Rangers team that has the dark arts handled the way that Jose Mourinho's do. So a lot of people saying, we don't want to see that and blah, blah, blah. And I thought there was a little bit of that from Rangers yesterday. Time wasting, taking the sting out of the game by rolling about when you've been hit in a tackle. And that's what you need to do to win games, to win away games. Embrace the villainry of it, because it's all part of that kind of streetwise streak that any winning team needs. You need to be horrible to play against.
Yes.
And I think Barry has added a bit of that. There's no doubt. A bit of vinegar into that Rangers side. Yeah. And that's what they've needed. Too many nice young lads in that team. And maybe, just maybe, Barry and his management team have turned the corner on that front. The other thing I would say they've turned the corner on, Derek, sorry to change the subject, but I think it's really important, is set pieces. What a difference in Rangers at set pieces. Absolutely enormous. They looked so powder puff under Philippe Clement. And since Barry's come in, you can see the work that's gone in. I thought it was fascinating watching Sports Scene last night. Scott Allen was talking about having worked with Billy Dodds. The corner routine for the goal with Nico Raskin's header was something that Scott Allen said he's seen 1,000 times from Billy Dodds.
Yeah.
And he actually talked through how very, very cleverly Dodds will bring 3 players out the box to attract 3 Celtic players out, make the box less congested, and allow them to have more space to attack with less blockers, etc. So very, very clever.
I love that, Johnny, because they've just been in a couple of weeks or whatever, and we're already seeing the effects of working on set pieces. Remember, you asked Philippe Clement, was it last year, or would he consider bringing in a set piece coach? And he says he does it himself. It was clear that they'd never done enough work on set pieces, but already we're seeing the fruits of work on the training ground, which is great to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And Billy Dodds deserves a lot of credit for that moment, because that's straight out of his repertoire. There's no doubt about it. And listen, not just Billy Dodds. It's clear this is a management team. And that's another thing, Derek, I don't know if I feel like I'm going a little bit back to the future on this, but I've said it before about Steven Gerrard. He went in there and it wasn't Steven Gerrard doing everything. He had Michael Beale to do the coaching. He had Gary McAllister to put his arm around the players. He had Tom Colshaw on the set pieces and to be his number 2 in and around the place. He had obviously medical staff there as well, and Jordan Wilson. So Gerrard really rounded out the team with high quality people that would give him expertise in certain areas. And I think Barry, to his massive credit, has kind of understood that. And he's there as a focal point, as the leader, bringing what he brought as a Rangers captain. McCann is there as the tactical brains. Billy Dodds is there as the coach on the pitch, obviously bringing set piece nous to the table as well. And then you've got Alan McGregor with the keepers. So there's a little bit of that, isn't there? There's a little bit of that cleverly filling out the management team to ensure that you've got the whole package without having any one individual that's the whole package. But the truth is, very, very difficult on Rangers' budget to go and get a guy who can do it all. So this is the way you have to do it. And listen, I'll be the first one to say I thought the appointment of Barry Ferguson was ludicrous. I looked at his CV, and on the basis of that alone, I thought it was not the right move. But Barry has proven everyone wrong. Everyone that said that felt that, wrong. And all you can say is credit to him for what he's done so far. Nobody would have thought, I don't think, that he would have been able to see off Mourinho and go to Parkhead. That's just two outstanding results overall. And I, for one, I'm just got to hold my hands up and say, look, so far at this point, I've got egg on my face. And that's down to the hard work that Barry and his team have done.
Yeah, first Rangers manager since Walter in '91 to go to Parkhead in his first Rangers match and win. So it tells you the feat that he achieved yesterday. Big thank you to Duncan Smith, who has gifted 5 Rangers Review memberships. That's very kind of you, Duncan. Thank you very much for that, sir. We touched on Raskin, his goal, beauty, set the tone really to begin with. Nico Raskin in the main, Jonny, what a player this boy is. Well-deserved call-up to the Belgium national team. That assist for Diamandi's goal, the vision to make that run and to just to nod it into Diamandi, that shows you the relationship between him and Mohamed Diamandi at this moment in time. And again, he was everywhere, just stopping Celtic progressing up the pitch at times. He's so good at just putting a foot in when required and breaking up play. I thought he was magnificent yesterday.
Yeah, myself and Josh have talked a lot about Nico Raskin and when he wasn't in the team and how that could be and what was going through Clement's mind and trying to understand the thought process behind that, because I'd always felt from the moment that Nico Raskin came in, he was a player. And I think what you're seeing now, and I know he's adjusted his lifestyle and things like that, so maybe he had to go through that period of difficulty with Clement, but what you're seeing now is a completely different player, even to the one we saw when he first arrived. And Rangers will need to do something on his contract. I think it's got 2 years left at the end of this season. So you definitely want to get some sort of agreement in place, which will see him stay for another year or two on top of the 2, because this is a guy that could go to a much better league than the one that we're in at the moment. And Diamandi, Derek, listen, he's had his critics.
That Diamandi.
There's no doubt that he is a class act as a football player. For him, it's about having the consistency to perform against Ross County the way he performs against Celtic and in Europe. And over time, if he can add that, then what a player Rangers have got on their hands. I think he looks better further forward.
Yes,
he's
that's
got more of
a
he's got more of a license to cause teams pain because he's a creative player. He's got those incredible swiveling hips. He's got an ability to take the ball in tight spaces and meander his way out. You know, there was one moment where he was fouled. I think he had 3 Celtic players around him, and he manipulated the ball so brilliantly to get himself out of the situation. You're thinking to yourself, this guy's a real baller, to use the kids' parlance. That's going to be clipped up and looking like an old guy talking about ballers. But regardless, he has been terrific in these last couple of games, and I think he's got a real high ceiling. So that's a really good signing, Derek. And I think we need to put that on record, because there's been a lot of people that have been like 4.5 million on DM. I don't think there's that many of them now. You know, you've seen him really big performances in really big games.
Yeah, he's a top player. I very much enjoyed watching him yesterday, and I also enjoyed his Ryan Kent-esque celebration as well. We wouldn't tire of watching.
Just one thing, right? While we're waxing lyrical about the 2 midfielders, I also think Connor Barron's been fantastic over these last few games.
Good point.
And the one thing that you get, I think, with this 3-man midfield, it just looks a lot more balanced than, you know, having these 3 midfielders who can kind of do a bit of everything, rather than having 2 midfielders and then the guy who's got the onus as a number 10 to get forward and attack. I much prefer this 3-man midfield, and I think it's looking much more balanced. And Connor Barron's a player that I've liked for a long time before he even arrived at Rangers. But I think there's just been a step up in the level of his game in terms of the commitment, the tackling.
Yeah.
I would never have described Connor Barron as a hard player, but his last couple of performances, he's looked like a hard player. Some really big thumping challenges in the middle of the park, work rate, commitment, passion. It's been fantastic to see. And, I get that the challenge is, 13 points behind. But if Barry can continue to get a turnout of these players, then you look at the way that they've upped their game, then there's no reason to think why there isn't a very, very good foundation here for the future, especially with a takeover where there will be significantly more finances at play. Not the war chest that people talk about, not the sort of tabloid war chest. We're not saying that, because there's structures around European football, there's structures around Scottish football where you can't just go in and spend like crazy. But there will be more money than there is at the moment. And with that coming in, I think there's a good selection of young players there. If you think about Nsiala, Ridvan Yilmaz is not an old guy. You look in that midfield and you look at the three of them, Barron, Raskin, Diamande. There's talent there. Igaman, there's definitely something to work with.
Well, Rangers have scored 9 goals against Celtic in the last 3 games, and they really should have won that League Cup final, let's be honest. And I think they've got the measure of Celtic at this point in time. You used to hear people saying, the gap. There is no gap between the two teams for me. I know Celtic were missing a few players yesterday, but make no bones about it, that was a real tremendous result from Rangers, given as well the exploits that I touched on earlier of Thursday night. It's just about consistency at this point in time. Cammy there saying, please sign Cerny. Let's talk about Cerny. I like this from Bluebells or Bluey, raising the point. Says, Coisty on Talk Sport this morning was comedy gold. He said Cerny deserves a knighthood. Didn't deserve a knighthood after missing that sit in the first half and nearly booted my telly, but he certainly played his part. Again, he's someone that I like when Barry said that he was quizzed on whether he would be tired heading into this game. He says there'd be no tiredness, it's all in the mind. And he showed that, yesterday he turned up again. Václav Cerny thought he was decent. He will be remembered, of course, from his celebration, running over to join Hamza and the players at the end of the game with the old water bottle. If Rangers don't bring out a Super Soaker range, then they're missing a trick there. But Václav Cerny, at that point there about signing him, Johnny, I think his agent came out last week and said that he's got interest from clubs in the top 5 leagues. It's where he wants to play. I would still be surprised if you're the Rangers player next season.
Well, I suppose a lot of it depends on the takeover, Derek, and how much they're willing to put into the transfer area of the club. So how much they can. I'm led to believe that Václav Cerny could be available for about £6.5–7 million. Now, to me, that's an absolute no-brainer. An absolute no-brainer. I'll give him a bit of a compliment here. I think it's a huge compliment. Others might think it's ridiculous. Others might think it's not a compliment. But I was a big fan of Malik Tillman as a player. And I also thought Abdallah Sima was a terrific signing. Both these loan signings have worked out and were both terrific. I think Cerny's been better than either of those two in terms of delivery on the park. And you only just need to look at numbers. Cerny, 17 goals from 44 appearances and 7 assists. A Rangers winger hasn't had those numbers for a long time. It's what the club have been crying out for. And if anything, I think he's improved as the season has gone on, Derek. He's grown into it. He's clearly got the mentality for it. He's had a couple of bumps, a couple of tough moments, but dusted himself down. Absolutely brilliant with the press in terms of holding his hands up and owning his performances, which I think is a sign of a guy with the mentality to make it a success at Rangers. And to me, in this kind of sort of number 10 role, I think he's been sensational. I think he's caused so much problem, just dripping with menace every time he gets it. And he's just got that ability to ghost past the player no matter how tight the situation. So I think Rangers fans would love to see Cerny back for next season as a full-time player. But the one thing I would say is, if you're talking about a strategy, a sensible strategy, the guy is 27. He's at his peak. If you sign Vaclav Cerny now, you get another season or two out of him. He's going to be 28, 29 by the time you sell him. Is that the model for Rangers? For me, I think sometimes you need players that are just going to deliver week in, week out. And if you sign Vaclav Cerny at 27,
he's a first teamer.
Maybe the thought is that you've got a first team player until he's 34. So for the next 7 years, you've got a player giving you a really, really high level of performance. So that's where I am with Cerny. I think it's a no-brainer if the finances are there. But I understand that it would be an expensive one, and I understand that there'll be barriers in the way. As you say, Derek, every player now wants to go to a top 5 league. But there's not many teams in world football and European football that give you what Rangers give you. And he seems to thrive on it. And that's something that neither he nor the club should give up on too quickly, I don't think.
Yeah, let's get to some of the points coming in, because as you can imagine, there is loads of them. I wanted to touch on this lad, Jonny, because he's come in. He's had so many injuries since he's joined Rangers. He's really been hamstrung with it. But James, with the point, and many others, he says he's always refreshingly honest with his interviews. I did enjoy his Rangers TV interview, and a point being raised here as well from Ross. He says, I've not discussed already, what about that clearance from Sterling? That I'm not sugarcoating it. That was probably one of the best clearances I've ever seen. The pace that ball is going to go, put an outstretched leg in there and clear that from danger. I thought it was a certain goal. I was expecting the net to bulge. Sterling was brilliant again yesterday. Of course, he's someone that's just building up his fitness, but he enjoyed that yesterday. He's a key component in this Rangers team if, of course, the big if, he can stay fit.
Yeah, there's no doubt Dujon Sterling is a really, really good player. Michael Beale gets a lot of stick, but he got that one absolutely right. Dujon has come in, and whenever he's played, in whatever position, he's never let Rangers down. And you know that if he's a guy that can just find a period where he's on the boil, he's ticking along fitness-wise, his manager is kind of managing his minutes, then what a player he is. He's strong, he's smart, he just seems to understand how to defend. He's that guy who loves defending, which you just don't see anymore, Derek. It's like one of those great Italian footballers of the 1990s.
He's like Sergio Perini, Jonny. He's like a Sergio Perini for me. He reminds me of...
He's similar in that regard. I actually think he's physically better than Perini. He's more powerful. And certainly more versatile, given that he can play right wing. I don't think you'd have played Sergio right wing, Derek, or central midfield. But obviously, Champions League winner and a great player, Sergio Perini. There's no doubt about that. But this lad, the sky's the limit if he can get his body right, and that's all it's about, getting his body right, because he's a terrific defender and a very reliable player. And that clearance, as you say, it was up there with some of the best you've ever seen.
Yep. This point from James, he says, changing Sterling and Tav was so important for yesterday's game, position-wise. I sort of felt, they changed it from Tav being right centre-back, moved them out, moved Sterling inside a little bit. I actually preferred Tav as right centre-back and Sterling out wide right, I've got to say. But Jota get a bit of joy when Rangers changed that. But listen, it's in-game tactics that not only Barry, but the coaching staff are doing, and they're not... one of the criticisms of Philippe Clement for me was he was a very reactive and very rarely changed things, if he ever did. This is a Rangers coaching staff that aren't afraid to make changes in-game if they see things that are going a bit awry. So fair play for them for that. I do very much like the back three as well. I think that works. Although Balogun at times for me, just certainly first half, guilty of giving the ball away. Was a bit on Thursday. Don't want to go too heavy on him, but at times his distribution can let him down. But I very much like that back three. Certainly when he went off and Robin Propper came on, I was a tad concerned, Jonny, because for me, Balogun is the better centre half of the two. Robin
Propper's better on the ball, though, isn't he? I mean,
well, yesterday he was sort of. I don't know if he got up with the speed of the game. It looked a bit ropey, but fortunately it wasn't. Cost Rangers at the second goal, of course, when Hatate equalised, but it never cost the Rangers in the grand scheme of things.
You could merge the two of them. What a player you'd have.
Yes, yes.
But listen, you're right. Balogun is a better player than Propper and is more suited to this league. And ultimately, I think Robin Propper's time at the club will come to an end at the end of the season because he just isn't suited to the hustle and bustle of Scottish football, the rough and tumble of it. Whereas Leon Balogun, that's his bread and butter, isn't it? He's brilliant in the air, physically loves a challenge. Yes, he's not the best with the ball at his feet, but neither was many a Rangers centre-half of the 1990s, and we know how good they were when it just came to clearing the ball. So
yeah,
I'm not too bothered about that, and especially in a back three when you've got a player like John Souttar in there who can take the ball out and who's
been brilliant recently,
pretty quick. And again, he was excellent throughout the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get to some more points that are coming in. First of all, we see you've got egg in your face, Jonny. I like this from Willie. He says, scrambled, fried, or poached, Jonny. How do you like your eggs on your face?
Well, as you can probably tell from the nick of me, Derek, I'll eat eggs in any way, shape, or form. But if I had to have a choice, I would say I probably prefer poached eggs. That's my favourite. But I also like, to be fair, I like a scrambled egg roll with bacon. So I just love eggs.
Yeah,
I just love food, Derek.
I'm a big fan of poached eggs. It's like a treat when I get poached eggs. Not very often, but a staple is boiled for me. Just no nonsense boiled eggs. But
there's a few tricks to a good poached egg, Derek. Bit of vinegar in the water.
Yes.
Make a wee whirlpool. Put your egg in a cup and then pour it in. There you go.
Yeah.
Gordon Ramsay.
Yeah. There you go. Luke Gibson says cream egg. Of course, we're heading into cream egg territory, aren't we? So, I'm sure they'll be out in supermarket stores as we speak. Scotty Stray gets in touch. Derek, I'm still half drunk, man. Yep, I'm sure there'll be a few sore heads this morning. That's for sure. And this is an interesting point. World's greatest DJ. He's been at the last two games. He would have been really impressed, I'd imagine, Jonny. He says, Andrew Kavanagh must have enjoyed his visit. He witnessed two great results. Can't help but have been impressed by what he has witnessed on Thursday and on Sunday as well.
Yeah, well, he's seen the best of Rangers, hasn't he?
Yes.
And it's not always like that.
It's games, that's for sure.
Right?
Yeah.
But especially Ibrox on Thursday. Derek, I've been to a lot of games at Ibrox over the years. And I have to say, and I said this the other day, to be fair, so I'm kind of repeating myself, but the noise levels at certain points in that game were higher than anything I'd ever heard. Now, the overall atmosphere was better in like the Dortmund game, for example, and the Parma game and things like that. But unfortunately, I didn't make it to the Leipzig game, as you know. But the sheer volume was ear-splitting for some of those penalties. And I can't imagine that Andrew Kavanagh hasn't watched that and got, I want a little bit of this. If he's got this far, where he's in the boardroom and he's at the games and, you know, he's very, very interested. And we know that. And we know the paperwork's going through at the moment. But I'm sure that will have only whetted his appetite for what's to come. And he'll have seen the potential that is there if you have a successful Rangers. And listen, the sky's the limit.
Yeah, most definitely. It was going to be an interesting summer ahead. There's no doubt about it and what's going to happen. Now, the result yesterday, Jonny, has certainly, you mentioned that you've got egg in your face with regards to Barry. Lots of comments coming in on the job he is doing and whether he is in the discussion for the new manager. Now, Andrew Kavanagh will have been impressed by what he has seen from him recently. Ross with the point. The question needs asked, does this week increase the chances of Barry getting the job full time? Not many Rangers managers go to Parkhead and get a result in a performance like that, Johnny. Not many managers can get Rangers into a Europa League quarter final, getting past one of the greatest managers of all time. He's not doing his chances any harm, I would say.
No, and to answer Ross's question, it has increased the chances of him getting the job full time. That isn't to say that he will get it. And you have to look at it over the whole period that Barry's in charge. So come the end of the season, where are we? There's still a lot of football to be played. So let's see what Barry and Neil McCann, Billy Dodds and Al McGregor can come up with between now and the end of the season, and then we can make an assessment on the big picture. Because, you know, you could give Barry the job now and then he loses the next game 5-0 at Ibrox and everyone's going, oh dear, that's been a bad decision. A little bit akin to when they unnecessarily gave Philippe Clement an extension on his contract. You know, there wasn't pressure to do that at the time, and they could have waited until the end of the season, or when they had more information, and they wanted to make a statement, and ended up biting them on the backside. So I think Barry has done a remarkable job compared to what I thought he would do. It's been excellent, and he's clearly showing the leadership skills that he honed as a captain of the Rangers team, and as a Premier League captain with Birmingham, a cup-winning captain down there as well in England, let's not forget. So as a figurehead, I think he's got a lot of qualities, and it's quite clear that he's got some substance to him as a manager. But there's always a new manager bounce, Derek, or there's almost always a new manager bounce. I suppose you've got to think of Ruben Amorim now. So there isn't always, but a lot of the time there is. And what I think Barry has to do is continue in this way, because even if the most ardent Barry fans will have to accept that, you know, over the course of a period of time, there's ups and downs as the Rangers manager, and having been in charge of the clubs that he's been in charge in, it doesn't really prepare you for that with Rangers. So you need a longer period of time to assess it. I look at it and wonder whether or not the guys that are going to be power brokers at Rangers once this goes through, what do they think? What will they be looking at? What will they be wanting from the next manager? And it may well be that they think, well, we've got the guy right here, or it may be that they want something else, some more experience, something more tangible. But what I would say, if Barry continues to go on this trajectory, it's absolutely inevitable that he'll end up as the Rangers manager, because even if he isn't given it this time, when it eventually goes wrong or it changes, there'll be a clamour to get Barry back because of what he's done and the way he's handled himself. And I think that's important, the way he's handled himself. He looks and acts like a Rangers manager. He talks like a Rangers manager. He's very measured. I think his press conferences have been fantastic. And dare I say it, and I don't say this lightly, that I can see the influence of Walter Smith in the way he's going about it.
Somebody mentioned that,
he's just calm, and you know, the energy is focused on the football and the touchline, and being a leader. And I've been really, really impressed with the way Barry's handled himself, having been really against the appointment when it was first mooted. And that just tells you everything you need to know. That, and I think a lot of people who felt the same as me, who felt it was a slightly ridiculous appointment because of Barry's CV, are now saying, well, in actual fact, maybe if you look at the way that this management team's constructed, it's actually been constructed with a little bit of care and intelligence, and it's worked in a way that, you know, people couldn't see. And I would hold my hands up to that. But it's early days, and you need to be aware of what's happened in the past when people have appointed a temporary manager. You just have to look at Aberdeen, Barry Robson, got them firing, got them storming to third. The next season's a disaster. I've mentioned before in terms of Spurs, Tim Sherwood had that and was a disaster. I mean, there's so many examples of it where it's just gone wrong that you have to be slightly wary of going down that route, I would say. Very wary, actually. But that's not to say Barry's not the right guy. That's not to say Rangers haven't stumbled upon something here. But you need to wait until there's a larger body of evidence from you. I mean, what do you think, Derek? You've always been a huge Barry fan. You sat with him for an hour talking about his time. I thought it was very impressive in that conversation he had with you. You know, there's no doubt he understands the club. I mean, what's your feeling on it? You were certainly more positive than I was when he was appointed.
Yeah, good Hamilton boy. So always going to back him. But,
so he's immediately you're just going for it just because of that.
Yeah. So I like him. He's instilled a Rangersness back. He's re-instilled at the standards that are expected at the club. And from the press conferences have been impressive. I enjoyed watching those. Didn't enjoy watching the Philippe Clement press conferences. I'm not alone in that, but he's not sugarcoating things. You can imagine what he's saying behind the scenes to these players. I'm sure he's telling them just what it means to play for a club like Rangers, that draws are no good. You need to win at all costs. And of course, the game yesterday, we always say a Rangers manager that is unable to beat Celtic is of no use. Well, he's beat Celtic at his first attempt. So he deserves great kudos for that. There was a comment just moments ago saying that just give him time and space to work. I think that is quite right. Let's see what he can do between now and the end of the season. But he's had a very good start to life as Rangers manager. The Bilbao game is huge. I think that may be just a step too far for Rangers. They are a quality outfit and then some, but you never know. Rangers in Europe, they've achieved remarkable success in recent years. If he can somehow mastermind those two legs, then it's the Rio Ferdinand clip for me, Jonny. Put out the contract, ask him what he wants and get him to sign it, because that for me would be a remarkable achievement. DB Cooper says, we are a unique club and sometimes it takes a legend. Look at Zidane at Madrid. So that is an example of where it's worked at some place. So it's a good example there, DB. But I think the clamour.
I think there's something to say for someone who's been a captain at a huge club like a Gerrard or a Ferguson. In many ways, that's almost like management in of itself, or it's a training for management in a way, because the level of pressure and expectation on you to behave in a certain way, to act that role, to deal with the media. I think that does give you a big step up in terms of taking a role like this, where, let's be honest, if you're a Rangers manager, you're a figurehead. So if you've been a captain at a big club, you're used to that. And that's something that you can see in Barry. It's like slipping on a pair of comfortable shoes, this role for him, hasn't it? The way he's taken to it, it's a bit uncanny. He just slipped into it like he's been waiting to do it for 10 years.
Yes.
But look, I feel like we're getting ahead of ourselves. I want to be really fair to Barry, and I want to be giving him the credit that he deserves, because I was I didn't think the appointment was right, and I've clearly got that wrong, because I think on an interim basis you have to say now that it is the right appointment. But I think we need to wait until there's more evidence than just a month or however long it's been. That there needs to be more time to see how Barry can perform over a more sustained period, and then make the judgment based on that. What I would say, Derek, is you're spot on. If he goes past Bilbao into the semis, then you're in a really, really difficult spot if you're Andrew Kavanagh coming in, because the clamour from the fans will be we need to get behind Barry, and the next Old Firm game's at Ibrox, so Rangers are going to be overwhelming favourites in that one, based on the last 3 games. And that's one thing, Derek. Celtic, we've not really discussed Celtic. I get that
Rangers have got the number, Johnny. That's 3 games now. As I touched on earlier, 9 goals. The League Cup final, of course, it will be forever remembered for that ridiculous decision not to award Rangers a penalty. But they've got their measure of them now. And I think they know that.
Yeah. I wouldn't go that far. The one thing I would say is Rangers have been the better team in the last 3 games. The cup final was very close, a very close game, and Rangers are entitled to look back on that and feel aggrieved about the refereeing decision, because it was an absolute shocker. There's no doubt about it. It was a truly terrible decision at a very, very crucial point. But it's important to remember that the league is done. So is the pressure on Celtic to perform at the very, very top of their levels? I mean, they were 16 points clear going into that game yesterday. So are their players really going to put their bodies on the line, really going to give it their all? I don't know is the answer, Derek. I don't know. I mean, it's an old fun game, so you always want to win. But listen, I watched the Walter Smith team lose 3-0 at Hampden to Celtic in a game when the title was long gone, and Rangers had a far, far better team than Celtic. So sometimes when the pressure's not on, it's a different thing. And you know, fundamentally, the cup final, the pressure was on, and Celtic still were able to get over the line, even though we know that there was that moment that went against Rangers that was very, very important. That was unfair. It was a mistake by the referee. So I'd just be wary of saying that they have their number, because I think we'll know if they've got their number or not at that first game next season, when the pressure is really, really on both sides, because it's important for the league title.
Yeah.
But listen, Rangers have been better than Celtic in head-to-head this season. It's inexplicable, and it's part of the reason why so many people are tearing their hair out at times when this Rangers team goes and loses to Queen's Park, but then can produce moments in games like this. I don't think I've ever seen a more schizophrenic team in the whole time I've been watching Scottish football. There's always been Rangers teams that were good domestically and bad in Europe, or better in Europe than they were domestically, especially in the kind of early Gerrard era. But the levels of difference here between Celtic and Europe and the rest, it's quite stark.
Yeah, it's consistently. I've got if Rangers had made a managerial change, say perhaps at the turn of the year, then perhaps we may have had a title race. I think they were too late in making that decision to remove Philip Clement, but that's by the by, I guess. Just going back to the egg topic, Chris, with a bit of sound advice: shake an egg before you crack it when making a fried egg. Keeps the yolk in the middle. So sound advice here from Chris. Francis with a point. I love this. Love seeing Bassey's reaction when he was told that we won. Yet Sky Sports presenter down there posted a little video. Fulham, who defeated Spurs yesterday, had Calvin Bassey on a short video, and it was fair to say that Big Calvin was pleased with the results.
Doing well down there, by the way, Calvin Bassey right now.
Yes,
really coming on a game after a shaky year at Ajax, and then took a little bit of time to get used to the Premier League, but standing tall and now looking like the player we all thought he would become.
Yeah, he's a cracking big guy. I remember when I wrote my Jimmy Bell piece, he gave up so much time to speak to me on and what he meant to himself. So fair play to Calvin. Good to see him ripping it up down there in the Premier League. And a big thank you to William, who has gifted 5 Rangers Review memberships. Thank you very much, William. That's very kind of you. At this point, Aaron, I'll address this, because I think he's posted before. He says, happy evening from Australia. Derek, is that a picture of 46 Valentino Rossi behind you? It's great to see you're a Rossi fan. It is, buddy. The missus is a huge fan of Valentino Rossi. So that is a picture, a painting, in fact, that adorns the living room here. So what a motorcycle racer he was back in the day. But right, I think we'll wrap up there. No game now for a couple of weeks. It's an international break, Johnny. I guess it's one of those ones where you just hope players come back in one piece and don't suffer a horrific injury, as Narisho Cashin-Weirjo did whilst on international duty with Holland under-21s. Interestingly, I've seen him part of the celebrations on Thursday night. I'd imagine he may have been there at Parkhead yesterday as well. So, in and around the squad is Narisho. So that's an interesting one. I think Rangers have an option to buy on that one at the end of the season, but given his injury history, who knows if that's something that they'll look to pursue. And before I forget, I've seen this comment coming in from Headkeeper. It says, rest easy, Don Kitchenbrand. Sad news yesterday that Rangers posted the passing of former player, the South African Don Kitchenbrand, who died at the age of 91. I think he was the oldest living at the time Rangers player. He scored 24 goals in 25 league appearances as Rangers won the title under Scott Simon in season 55-56. He featured 37 times in all for Rangers, as well as turning out for the likes of Sunderland, Forfar and Keith as well. So, thoughts are with the family of Don. Sad news to hear yesterday evening. Right, thank you to Jonny for joining us, and thank you to you all for tuning in to what has been a bumper and a very enjoyable show this afternoon.
Before we go, there's one more egg tip. We need to get this in.
For fried eggs, put a tablespoon of water in the frying pan and put the lid on. The steam cooks the top side of the egg. Interesting. Didn't know that.
I'm going to try that tonight.
Yeah. So there you go. Who knew would be speaking about eggs and such a fashion today? But it's been a good old show
Josh
today.
Will be tearing his hair out of all this.
He's too busy looking at the XG yesterday, I'd imagine, and the Big Jack Butland's assist for that third goal. Route 1, no less. Loved it. But for those of you that are extra members, I think we'll record a Q&A show a little later on this afternoon, around about 2 o'clock, so you can join us for that, folks. I'd imagine there'll be a fair few questions to get through. But if I don't speak to you then please, good comment there from Curry. We like a bit of comedy in the morning. But enjoy your Monday. I'm sure you all will. And we'll speak to you a little later on. Bye for now.